Imagine a couple ready to retire from their ocean adventures and spend time with their soon-to-be-born grandchild. Now, think about another couple wanting to live that same dream life, but instead of earning it, they decide to steal it. This isn't just a movie plot, it's the true, shocking story of Tom and Jackie Hawks, who were betrayed in the worst way possible. This tale is full of twists and turns that will keep you on the edge of your seat wondering how anyone could do such a thing. From the sunny shores of Newport Beach, California, to the deep, dark depths of the Pacific Ocean, this is a story you'll never forget. In fact, for the past few days, this story is so brutal that when I wake up in the morning, it is the first thing on my mind. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. Now, my friends, picture our channel as a magical boat sailing through an ocean of knowledge. To help steer our vessel, I need your support. So cast your vote in the form of a thumbs up, enlist this part of our crew by hitting that subscribe button, and ensure you never miss a wave of information by ringing our ship's bell for notifications. Join us as we navigate through uncharted territories, and somewhere in this video is a split-second shot of an image. The first person to comment what the image is will have their comment pinned to the top. Now let's get back to this saga that I promise is going to haunt your mind's sensibility for the days to come. Our story begins in 1986 with a gentleman named Tom Hawks. He was just a regular 39-year-old dude with a pair of teenage boys. He had been hitched to their mom, but things didn't work out and they called it quits, later getting a divorce. That same year, Tom finds himself at this local chili cook-off in Newport Beach, California. Now picture this: bustling crowds, hot sun, the aroma of spices filling the air. Suddenly, Tom spots a woman in the crowd. She's drop dead gorgeous, like no one he's ever seen before. He can't help but stare, totally mesmerized. But then she notices, looks up, smiles, and of course, blushes. It's like something from a movie, but for Tom, he feels absolutely embarrassed. Caught in the act of staring, what does he decide to do? He decides he's got to go and introduce himself. So Tom, a pretty rugged looking guy himself with a magnificent mustache that just screams adventure, makes his way through the sea of people. As he walks up, you can almost hear the crowd go silent. He introduces himself and she's all smiles, revealing her name to be Jackie, single, 29, and now laughing with Tom Hawks. From that moment, it was like they had known each other forever. But hey, before we continue, I hope you're as gripped by this story as we are navigating through it. If this content is reeling you in, why not take a second to hit that like button? It helps keep the channel stay afloat. And if you want to journey with us through more intense stories like this one, then go ahead and subscribe and ring that notification bell. It's your best way to stay on course with us. Now let's plunge back into the story. So Tom and Jackie were head over heels in love, and in just a few years down the line, in 1989, they tied the knot and got married, surrounded by all of their loved ones. Jackie soon moved in with Tom and the boys. Even though their biological mom was still around, the boys took to calling Jackie mom because Jackie was all in, giving these boys all the love and care that they could ever ask for. Now, Jackie had a bit of a rough history. Back when she was 22, a nasty motorcycle crash left her unable to have kids of her own. This was something she had always dreamed of, so when she got the chance to play mom to these boys, she embraced it with open arms. Years flew by, and Tom and Jackie did a bang-up job of raising their sons, but in 2002, the nest was suddenly empty. The boys were all grown up and out of the house. It was kind of this bittersweet moment for Tom and Jackie. A big chunk of who they were was just about being parents, but you know, they knew this day was coming. They had been saving up for every year when the boys would leave. So what was their plan? They wanted to retire at the right moment, save as much money as possible, and buy a yacht. Not just any yacht, but their own little slice of paradise to sail up and down the California and Mexico coastlines. Now, Tom and Jackie weren't made of money, but they were smart savers, living lean and putting aside every penny they could with the idea of buying a yacht. Finally, in 2002, when the boys took off, Tom and Jackie made a big move. They sold their house in Newport Beach, California. Between that and all of their savings, they scraped together enough to buy this old, beaten-up yacht, and they called it the Well-Deserved. Now, this wasn't some luxury-style movie star yacht, but it was theirs, and they loved it. The moment it was docked in Newport, they moved everything they owned onto that boat. That was their home now, and this was the life they were going to live. They spent their days fixing it up, cleaning, organizing, making it just perfect. By summer, that old beaten up yacht was a sight to behold. Inside and out, it was cozy, welcoming, and unmistakably theirs. For the next 2 years, Tom and Jackie were living the dream. They sailed that yacht up and down the California and Mexican coastlines, catching fresh fish, sipping cocktails, and soaking up those beautiful sunsets. But then in 2004, the game changed. One of their sons was about to be a dad. This meant that Tom and Jackie were about to become grandparents for the first time, and especially for Jackie, this was huge. Remember, she couldn't have kids of her own, and the thought of her being motherly again had her over the moon. Even though they loved the yacht life, they decided it was time for a change. They wanted to sell the yacht and buy a house on land to be closer to their son and the upcoming grandchild. So they put an ad in a fishing magazine selling the yacht for about $500,000. Almost instantly, this young couple with some cash to spare reached out to buy it. Tom and Jackie couldn't be happier. So they phoned their sons, letting them know that the deal was almost done. They promised to call again in a couple of days with the final news. But then a couple of days passed and nothing. The sons tried reaching out, but their calls went to voicemail. No sign of Tom or Jackie. Tom and Jackie were the kind of folks who always kept in touch with their family, always. So this sudden silence, unheard of. When Tom's brother Jim, a retired police chief, heard about the unusual quiet, he and a buddy decided to take matters into their own hands. He hopped in his car and drove down to Newport Beach, California. Maybe the sale hadn't gone through yet. Maybe Tom and Jackie were still on the yacht, so he figured he'd go down there with his buddy and check. So Jim and his buddy arrive in Newport, head to the dock where the well-deserved is stationed, and there it is. But from where they stand, it doesn't seem like anyone's home. As they're standing there, Jim notices a couple of things. Some lines are hanging over the side of the yacht, not like Tom, who was meticulous about keeping things tidy. There's also tarps that were taken off of some control panels and not put back on. Another oddity, and dirty towels were hanging over the porthole, not really Tom and Jackie's style. The whole thing leaves Jim with one conclusion. Tom and Jackie must have finalized the sale of the yacht, and the new owners were now in charge, and they were the reason for the mess. They were the ones who had left things sloppy. Tom and Jackie would never let their yacht get like that. So Jim writes a note on his business card asking the new buyers to get in touch. He's trying to find his brother and sister-in-law who seem to have just vanished into thin air. He leaves the card on the boat, and he and his buddy leave the dock. Just as they're leaving, Jim's cell phone rings. It's a young woman named Jennifer De Leon. She tells Jim that she found his business card on her new yacht. She and her husband were the ones who had bought the well-deserved from the family, and just like Jim, they were also trying to get in touch with Tom and Jackie. There were some controls on the yacht that they didn't know how to operate, and they needed Tom and Jackie to explain some things for them. Jennifer also mentioned that she had found some of Tom and Jackie's personal stuff left behind in the yacht. She wanted to give it back to them, but she was having as much trouble reaching them as Jim was. When Jim asked her when she and her husband had last seen Tom and Jackie, Jennifer said it was when they finalized the yacht sale. They handed over the cash, watched Tom and Jackie hop into their car, and off they went. Jennifer didn't really know where they might be heading. The conversations with Tom and Jackie were mostly about the sale, not much personal talk. However, in the few personal chats they did have, Tom always mentioned how he and Jackie were planning to buy a house in Mexico in a town bordering Arizona. Apparently they had a son living in Arizona who was about to become a father, and they wanted to be close to him. After thanking Jennifer and asking her to let him know if she heard anything, Jim ended the call with a strange feeling. But then he remembered Patricia, a friend of Tom and Jackie who they'd hired to manage their finances while they were out sailing. They knew they wouldn't have reliable internet access, so Patricia was in charge of paying the bills and all their taxes. Jim gave Patricia a call, explained the situation, and asked her whether Tom and Jackie had recently made any large deposits into their accounts. They should have, seeing as they had sold their yacht for nearly $500,000, and Patricia checked the accounts, and no large deposits had been made. As Jim and Patricia mulled over why Tom and Jackie wouldn't have deposited such a large, significant sum, they couldn't really come up with any reasonable explanations. The whole thing just didn't really add up. After hanging up with Patricia, Jim was left with a sinking feeling. Something wasn't right here, so he called the Newport Beach Police Department and officially reported Tom and Jackie as missing. The first thing the Newport Beach Police Department did after receiving the missing persons report was to investigate the new buyers of the yacht, the De Leons. On digging a little, they find out out that the husband, 25-year-old Skylar, was a felon. He'd been arrested and convicted of armed robbery and had spent some time in jail. The police were naturally suspicious of Skylar and the De Leons overall. They were, after all, the last ones to see the Hawks before they disappeared. So they sent a detective down to the dock to check out the yacht and the area. The detective walked up to the well-deserved yacht and saw what appeared to be a bloody handprint inside. This was enough to secure a search warrant, and soon the police were combing through the yacht. However, the suspected bloody handprint turned out to be just rust, and they found nothing significant on the boat. With no leads to go on, the police contacted Skylar De Leon and asked him to come to the police station to explain his last interaction with the Hawks. Skylar came in and cooperated fully. He told the detectives that he had seen the yacht ad in a fishing magazine, contacted Tom Hawk, met with him, and they went on a sea trial, which means that he and Tom just went to test drive the boat. After liking the yacht, he decided to proceed with the purchase. On November 15th of 2004, Skylar, along with his pregnant wife, young daughter, a notary, and a friend as a witness, met Tom and Jackie in the parking lot of the dock. The De Leons handed over a suitcase full of cash to the Hawks, who then, with the notary, signed the sale document. Tom and Jackie took the cash-filled suitcase, hopped into their SUV, and drove off, presumably headed for Mexico. When the police asked Skylar how he could afford such an expensive vessel, Skylar explained that he had been an extra on the popular TV show Power Rangers back in the 1990s and had saved up his earnings, but then he stopped mid-story and confessed it wasn't really true. The truth was, he had the money because he had stolen it. He revealed that the armed robbery he'd been convicted of involved stealing money from a drug kingpin. Before being arrested and sent to jail, he managed to hide the stolen money. After Skylar had served his time in jail, he returned to his hiding spot and retrieved the stolen drug money. However, since this money was hot or flagged, he needed to launder it, hence he decided to buy the yacht using the dirty money. This way, he could transform his stolen money into a yacht and then sell the yacht to get clean money. The police were taken aback by Skylar's confession, which really implicated him in a money laundering scheme. But given Skylar's cooperation with the investigation, they decided not to charge him with money laundering and just let him go. The police then interviewed Skylar's wife, Jennifer. They also interviewed the notary and the friend who'd been there during the whole yacht's final sale. All three described the same scene of the Hawks taking the suitcase of cash, signing the paperwork, getting into their car, and then just driving off. The only differing detail was how Tom and Jackie were acting. Skylar described Tom as being anxious and paranoid about having this large sum of money, while the notary claimed Tom and Jackie seemed completely normal. After these interviews, the police felt they'd reached a dead end and weren't sure what to do next. So they approached the media, asking them to put out a bulletin with pictures of Tom and Jackie and their vehicle, requesting anyone who had seen them to come forward. A couple of days after the bulletin aired, an older couple in Mexico called the police saying that they had seen the Hawks SUV parked across the street. Mexican and American authorities rushed to the location and charged up to the house where the SUV was parked, hoping to find Tom and Jackie or someone they knew. However, when they knocked on the door, a stranger who was living in Mexico answered. When asked about the SUV, he said it belonged to his friend, Skylar De Leon. This was a critical moment for the police as it showed that Skylar had been lying to them. Skylar had said that the last time he saw the Hawks, they'd driven off in the SUV, yet he'd managed to get hold of their car and give it to a random person in Mexico. The police in Newport Beach capitalized on Skylar's on-camera confession of money laundering to arrest him. Once he was in custody, they searched his and Jennifer's home. Inside, they found items belonging to the Hawks like laptops and video cameras, items they wouldn't have left behind on their boat. Despite this evidence linking Skylar to Hawk's disappearance, he maintained his innocence, insisting it was all just a misunderstanding. While in custody, his wife echoed his claims, even going on talk shows to state that Skylar had no part in the Hawks' disappearance and that they were just as concerned about Tom and Jackie as everyone else was. However, the police didn't buy it. They were certain that Skylar knew something something he wasn't sharing. When their efforts to extract information from Skylar proved useless, they decided to re-interview the notary, Kathleen Harris, and the friend who had witnessed the final sale of the boat. Kathleen had never been in trouble and had been a successful notary for many years. When questioned intensively, Kathleen confessed that she had never actually met Tom and Jackie, and that she had been paid upfront $2,000 by Skylar to backdate the sale of the documents that had already been signed, and that he promised to pay her more money after everything was all said and done. The police next interviewed the friend who had been present during the boat sale, a man named Alonzo Machine. Alonzo initially stuck to the story that he'd seen Tom and Jackie take their cash, get into their SUV, and drive off, but when confronted with Kathleen's confession, Alonzo clammed up. Desperate for a breakthrough in the case, the police promised Alonzo a reduced sentence if he told them everything he knew about what happened to Tom and Jackie. Alonzo agreed to cooperate. He was a young, impressionable man in his early to mid-20s and had worked as a jailer. He had met Skylar when Skylar was in jail for armed robbery. After Skylar's release, the two remained friends. In November 2004, Skylar confided in Alonzo that he was an international assassin who was paid to kill people, only bad ones, however. Skylar approached Alonzo with a proposition. He claimed he had a contract to kill two very bad people, Tom and Jackie Hawks, and needed Alonzo's help. In return, he offered Alonzo $1 million. Alonzo agreed, and on November 15th, Skylar, Alonzo, and a third accomplice, a muscular and intimidating Southern California gang member named John Kennedy, met at the docks parking lot. They weren't there to finalize the sale of the yacht. Instead, they were there for a sea trial to test drive the yacht with Tom and Jackie. Tom, a former probation officer, instantly sensed that the three men were there for trouble. He was apprehensive about getting on the boat and talked about rescheduling, and definitely appeared very hesitant to Skylar. Skylar notices this and steps aside to make a call to his wife, Jennifer, who was nearby with their 1-year-old baby girl. Jennifer's arrival with the baby eased the tension. Jackie fell in love with the child, and Tom, seeing his wife at ease, agreed to proceed with the boat test drive. As the group prepared to board the yacht, Jennifer excused herself, saying that she needed to return home because the baby was upset. Even though Tom and Jackie might have felt some unease, they put their faith in the De Leons and boarded the yacht with the three men. Once they were far removed from dock and any land, Skylar and John asked Tom to follow them to the lower levels of the ship to show him something. Meanwhile, Alonzo and Jackie were in the kitchen, which was above the bedroom where Skylar and John had led Tom, and then all of a sudden, there's a lot of noise coming from below the deck, including screaming. Jackie rushes over to investigate, and she's trying to figure out what's happening. Alonzo quickly overpowers her, throwing her to the ground and handcuffing her hands together. As soon as Jackie was subdued in the kitchen, Skylar and John emerged from the bedroom without Tom. They seized Jackie and led her down into the bedroom where she would have seen her husband, Tom. Tom and Jackie were handcuffed and thrown onto the bed, and distraught, Jackie pleaded with Skylar, asking why were they being treated this way after they had just met his wife and held his baby. She begged to be allowed to return to land to their children and her grandchild. Skylar, unmoved, ordered Alonzo to put tape over the couple's mouths and eyes. Skylar then took the boat towards the deepest part of the ocean, while Alonzo and John stayed with the couple. Alonzo remembered Tom comforting Jackie, assuring that they would be together no matter what happened. When Skylar had reached the deepest part of the ocean, he called Alonzo and John to bring the couple back to the deck. Once on the deck, Skylar forced the couple to sign the yacht's sale documents and additional paperwork that gave him access to their bank accounts. Interestingly, Jackie misspelled her last name on one of the signature blocks, possibly signaling that she had signed her name under threats of violence or against her good judgment. After the documents were signed, the three men led Tom and Jackie to the back of the boat. Skylar instructed Alonzo to bring the anchor from the front of the boat. Understanding what was about to happen, Jackie pleaded for their lives. Tom manages to shake off his restraints and kick Skylar off his feet, but John quickly hits him over the head, knocking him out. They were then positioned sitting back to back, their handcuffs connected to each other. Alonzo dragged a heavy anchor over, and Skylar fastened one end of its long metal chain to Tom and Jackie's handcuffs. Once he was sure their handcuffs were securely fastened, Skylar lifted the heavy anchor and threw it overboard. As the anchor hit the water, Tom and Jackie would have heard the sound of the chain they were attached to being rapidly pulled off the boat and sucked down into the water. When the chain pulled tight, it jerked Tom and Jackie towards the side of the boat. Alonzo later recounted that Jackie's head hit the side of the boat so hard it made a loud, audible cracking sound. Skylar, Alonzo, and John then stood by as Tom and Jackie struggled against the weight of the anchor, pulling them over the boat. Tom attempts to hold on to anything he can, striving to keep his wife in place, but the weight of the anchor and the chain and the movement of the boat were just too much. Gradually, Tom and Jackie were pulled overboard and into the water. Fully conscious and aware, they began their rapid descent to the ocean floor thousands of feet below. Alonzo would later tell police that as soon as Tom and Jackie disappeared beneath the surface, Skylar cheered. He ran to the edge of the boat to peer at the spot where they had vanished, grinning and laughing. Once the water calmed and no more bubbles surfaced, Skylar nonchalantly returned to the cockpit and began piloting the boat towards the dock. Jennifer, Skylar's wife, although not present on the boat at the time of the murder, was deeply involved. In fact, the attack was her idea. She wanted more money and saw this scheme as a means to that end. When she arrived at the dock parking lot with her baby, putting Jackie and Tom at ease, facilitating their departure on the sea trial, she knew exactly what she was doing, laying a trap for Jackie and Tom to be murdered while their boat was stolen. Skylar would periodically call Jennifer from the boat before, during, and after the murders to update her on the situation, seeking feedback and advice on their next steps. Adding to the chilling nature of this case was a video camera found in Jennifer and Skylar's house. This camera, which belonged to the Hawks, had been used by the couple to document their ocean travels. When the police played the tape inside the camera, they initially saw footage of Jackie filming the inside of the yacht, speaking of her sadness that they were probably leaving the boat for the last time. She and Tom were, however, happy to have found buyers who would take good care of the yacht, and they were excited about their future and their grandchild. But suddenly the footage of Jackie in the boat cut off and jumped to Skylar and Jennifer celebrating Thanksgiving dinner that year, playing with their daughter and enjoying their time. This footage had been recorded just days after the couple had brutally murdered Tom and Jackie, erasing their memories with their own personal moments. Ultimately, Alonzo was sentenced to 20 years in prison, and although he might have received a more severe sentence because he provided a lot of key details about what happened, his sentence was greatly reduced. Jennifer received a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. As for John Kennedy and Skylar, they were originally both sentenced to death, but since California has recently done away with the death penalty, both of these men will live out their days in a maximum security prison. The horrific account of the murders of Tom and Jackie Hawks is indeed heart-wrenching and shocking. It's a stark reminder of the lengths to which some individuals will go for personal gain while completely disregarding the value of human life. The brutal crime shook Newport Beach community and made headlines around the world, underlining the dangers of trusting strangers with significant assets. Like the Hawks yacht, it also exposes the grim reality of the human capacity for cruelty and deceit. This case remains an important one in crime history, not only due to its severity, but also because it offers key lessons in law enforcement and crime prevention. The intensive investigation that eventually led to the arrest and conviction of the culprits demonstrates the importance of thorough collaborative police work in solving such cases. Despite the tragic ending, the memory of Tom and Jackie Hawks continues to live on through their friends and family, as well as through the countless individuals affected by their story. But there's another thing about this story I think you should know about. There was a pretty wild moment during the courtroom trial when the judge was taking testimony from Skylar's family about his upbringing. Everyone in the courtroom was listening super closely. Skylar's mom, Lynette O'Daniel, was telling about a time when Skylar as a child almost drowned. Then out of nowhere, the prosecutor quickly asked Skylar's mom, "He wasn't tied to an anchor?" Skylar's attorney quickly objected. All right, folks, we're wrapping up today's video. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you already haven't. Now, here's where the fun begins. Imagine yourself as the incredible Hunchback of Notre Dame, standing proudly atop the cathedral. You want the entire city of Paris to hear the glorious sound of your bell, so give that bell a mighty ring to make sure you're all set for our next awesome video. We'll see you soon. Take care.